first thing I'm going to talk about is the HBO limited series that just wrapped up, The Regime, starring Kate Winslet. I actually talked about this show briefly a few weeks ago because it was one of my most anticipated shows of the year. I was very
Mm-hmm.
interested in the marketing and the trailers, and of course, just the power of Kate Winslet. She is one of the most extraordinary actors working today. Very, very excited about this show. And unfortunately, I left disappointed after watching it. This show is not really all that great. I think what really just doesn't work for me is the fact that this is supposed to be a satirical show about this chancellor who is ruling over this nation, and she's becoming paranoid and she's sort of losing a grip on her place and her power, and she just becomes really, really crazy by the end of her run. Somebody that's power hungry but also somewhat airheaded and lacking the knowledge of the issues that's happening on the ground, and doesn't really have that keen awareness. And it's supposed to be a satire, it's supposed to be funny, but it just doesn't land in those areas. It just wasn't all that funny. There were certainly moments, but it wasn't all that funny, and I don't think that the criticism and the winking satire was as sharp as it needed it to be. And ultimately I left kind of disappointed by it, which is really unfortunate because I had high hopes for it, just knowing the star power
Mm-hmm.
attached to it. Kate Winslet, of course, in front of the camera, but also one of the writers from Succession was one of the producers on the show as
Mm.
well. So there was definitely the pedigree there. Of course, HBO is a brand really knowing how to select and choose great shows, especially from a limited series standpoint. I really gravitate towards those, but I think that it's just like it's a scattershot show that's just all over the place. It's really wild. The tones differ drastically on a scene to scene basis. I mean, you never really get to settle into one tone at any given moment. There's also some dream sequences that take you to completely different places that almost feel like a different reality. I mean, it becomes a show that I just did not anticipate for it to become, because it is kind of throwing darts at anything, trying to figure out what's going to stick. And I
Mm-hmm.
think ultimately, if you're looking for a satire about a female in power who's also kind of dim-witted and looks down on people, they've done a better show, and that's Veep, starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus, that ran for
Mm-hmm.
7 seasons. That's actually a really, really good show. She's playing the president of the United States, working in the White House, and it showcases how somebody who is completely unequipped to be in power ends up in that position, which we have experience with in real life. We've seen that happen. So this is obviously going after things that are relevant, conversations that are relevant, especially when it comes to leadership positions and positions of power. But it just didn't really work for me. It's okay. There were certain moments. I think the best thing about it is probably this romance that develops between Kate Winslet's character as a chancellor and this soldier who's like, he's kind of over everything that's happening, but they develop this really toxic relationship with each other. It's crazy, the stuff that they do and inflict upon each other. It's really kind of the backbone of the show. Those were kind of the best moments, but everything else around it just didn't work for me, unfortunately.
That's so frustrating. Only because I mean, I feel like they had all the pieces, man. Kate Winslet
They were
after
there.
Mayor of Easttown. Come on, man. Mayor of Easttown's great. And yeah, they had everything except the execution. So yeah, that's sad to hear. Yeah, I was really rooting for that show, man. Especially I needed something else on HBO to kind of sink my teeth into for these for a time.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
had a slow year last year too. Like they didn't put out a ton of stuff. I know this year's going to be a lot bigger
Mm-hmm.
for them. And this was one of the shows, that was supposed to kind of be a part of that. Like I know I'm going to be watching HBO for like probably the whole year on Sundays. My
The
like my
whole
year is
year.
booked up, with the
Yeah.
Penguin and House of the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Sympathizer just came out, but this one it was just like, damn, you kind of missed the mark. But it's okay. We'll just move on to the next one.